Hello YouTube, this is Michael B. the Game Genie, and this is a quick video response to TheGameManDan's Top 5 Sega Genesis titles. So these are not my favorite Sega Genesis titles ever released. These are actually just my favorite Sega Genesis titles I have in my collection currently. And I want to start it off with one that's going to raise a few eyebrows, but the first game I want to talk about is an EA Sports title. NHL 97. Now, most people are going to say, oh, it's a sports title, that's a throwaway. I'm going to be honest with you now. I don't think there's a single game ever released that I've spent more time playing than NHL 97 for the Sega Genesis. I love this game. Well, I'm Canadian. I'm going to like a hockey game. But specifically this one. This, in my opinion, was the perfection of all the Sega Genesis hockey titles. And it actually had a couple more really interesting elements as well. This one actually had special moves for certain characters. Eric Lindros, for example, with the Philadelphia Flyers, could actually check while he was skating with the puck, which was very unique. Now, the other thing about EA Sports NHL titles, everybody says they're a throwaway, but I'll ask you to think about modern day NHL for the PS3 or Xbox 360. NHL 12 came out last year. What was the biggest drawing point for NHL 12? You could play with classic characters. You know what's even better than playing with classic characters? Playing with full classic teams, with their full rosters. And you know how you do that? By playing old sports games. So for everybody here on YouTube that shits on sports games, I like them. Of course, I can't do a Sega Genesis list without saying Sonic the Hedgehog. I love the original Sonic the Hedgehog. I have Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and Sonic & Knuckles for the Sega Genesis. I never got around to getting Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I'm still looking for it. However, I did pick it up on the Game Boy Advance. I have the Sonic Smash Pack. Now, the next game I'm going to show you may raise a few heads as well, because realistically, it wasn't an arcade perfect port, but realistically, Mortal Kombat for the Sega Genesis was probably the best version available at its time. I mean, realistically, could it keep up with the Super Nintendo version? No. But you know what? It had blood and the original fatalities, which made it amazing. Now, I don't own or have never played the Sega CD version of Mortal Kombat. Might even be better. I'll have to pick it up sometime. Next up is a game I only picked up recently, but I've always been intrigued by it and was very excited when I got it. And when I first started playing it, I couldn't be happier with the results. And that is Castlevania Bloodlines for the Sega Genesis. Castlevania Bloodlines is an amazing game. It's your classic 2D Castlevania, except you get to play as some different characters that were never in the game before. It's got that unique Sega Genesis feel. It's a great game. If you haven't tried it, check it out. Unfortunately, it's not available on the Wii Virtual Console or anywhere else like that, so you are going to have to pick up the original copy of the game and a Sega Genesis. And last but not least, probably one of the biggest loves of my childhood, Streets of Rage. Now, I don't have the original box for Streets of Rage. They came out with these weird redone Sega Classics games with the basically the Red Genesis side. That's the copy of Streets of Rage that I picked up. But if you take a look inside, it does have the original manual and original game card. So, still very cool. For those of you who've never played Streets of Rage is an amazing 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up. Very fun to play. It's also available on Sonic's Ultimate Sega Genesis Collection. So, definitely try it out. Also on the Wii Virtual Console as well. I am going to cheat a little bit. I just recently picked up Contra Hard Corps for the Sega Genesis. It's not complete. This was extremely hard to find for me. I just picked it up here locally, and I was very excited to get it. So Contra Hard Corps is outside of the 5. I didn't include it because I only picked it up recently. Just started playing it. It seems like an amazing game, but it's extremely hard. I remember when I first picked it up, I wrote on Facebook, just picked up Contra Hard Corps, and it is extremely difficult. And someone wrote me back and said, well, they don't call it Contra Easy Corps. So if anybody's played this, it's a great game. It looks great. It's got the same graphical style as Castlevania Bloodlines, but it's really hard to play. So those are 5 titles in my Sega Genesis collection that I believe are can't-miss titles, some from growing up and some just recently I've added to the collection. I want to say thank you so much to TheGameManDan for putting up his top 5 Sega Genesis list and giving me an opportunity to do a video response. It brought back a lot of memories. The Sega Stoner just did an excellent Sega rant video where he talked about how Sega's gone off track. And looking back at some of the old Sega games, you can really see what we're talking about. Just bringing up your top 5 Sega Genesis games. So different than what Sega produces today. Anyways, this is Michael B. the Game Genie. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.